What is it? Who is Martin and what does Martin do? Well, my name is Martin Gilchrist and I am the founder and the principal consultant at Gilchrist & Co. Consulting. And if you cut my finger, I bleed networking. People are looking at me when I do that and they go, Martin, what do you do that for? That's crazy. What are you doing? But to tell you what, everybody remembers it.
Yes.
And my job right now, my principal, prime, most important job right now is for people to remember who I am. Because Gilchrist & Co. Consulting is all about networking, and I am trying to build a network for the benefit of each and every individual member of my network. So if you remember who I am, that's a good start.
Yeah. You said a lot of stuff there. So I'll pick the best word there, networking.
Okay.
So I still remember I was speaking to someone regarding my startup. As part of my primary market research, I was speaking to someone about, how financial well-being working in employer space.
Mm-hmm.
Then the topic went up to networking.
Mm-hmm.
That's when that person mentioned your name.
Right. Okay.
You have to speak to Martin.
Okay.
That's when we had a phone call. Then
Yeah.
he invited me to a networking event the next day. Then we met in person. Then a couple of months after, now we're doing a podcast.
Isn't it brilliant? Isn't it magic how it works? It is absolute magic.
It is. So networking, and you mentioned you're doing something great for the people who would like to do networking.
Yep.
So do you want to share more information on that?
Yes. Well, let me give you a little bit of context first about how this all
Sure.
came about and why I'm doing this and how Gilchrist & Co. Consulting came about. My background is that I did law at university. Then I went on to work with solicitors' practices, not actually as a lawyer, but as a specialist in solicitors accounting. So I had a practice, I had my own practice looking after solicitors' firms that needed help with their accounts implementation, software implementation, and staff training and that. After a couple of years, I joined my wife, Michelle Gilchrist FCA, who's a senior member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, in our own firm called Gilchrist & Co. Chartered Accountants. And we have been doing that for 20 years. Gilchrist & Co. as a chartered accountancy practice is a very successful family practice. It was always meant to be a livelihood. It was a practice that we started so we could work together as a family. And it has provided everything that we wanted. It has been subjectively a great success. What's changed recently is that way back when we started to practice in our 30s, we'd always intended that we could retire if we wanted when we got to 50. When Michelle got to 50, she didn't want to retire.
Okay.
However, our son James has now graduated from what's called a higher level apprenticeship in accountancy. So he did an accounting degree at the University of Jordanstown, but he did it as a higher level apprentice, which means it takes a little bit longer. So rather than 3 years, it takes 4.5 years because he's working in the practice for us as well. And he's now doing his chartered accountant and he's chartered accountancy, and he's joined the practice full time. He's also going to turn 25 in May, so he's a fully grown man now. He's a young adult, and he is perfectly capable of taking up the role that I did at Gilchrist & Co. So I am taking this opportunity to step out of Gilchrist & Co., the chartered accountancy practice, and into Gilchrist & Co., the consulting firm, which is something somewhat different. So that's how we got to be Gilchrist & Co. Consulting, a consulting firm that assists professionals and corporate organizations optimize their networking. That's where I am now.
Cheers. So how are you finding it being a founder? And obviously you mentioned about consulting.
Mm-hmm.
And now you mentioned about an app you're building as well.
Yes.
So now you're wearing a hat of a founder. So is that something different, or is that something, do you feel much gap in between doing the same?
It's completely different.
It is? Okay.
It is completely and absolutely
We
different.
only had a couple of conversations around this,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
Talking all about the startup terms.
So it's completely different. So Gilchrist & Co. is professional practice. When you're in professional practice, you don't really have to sell it, particularly an established professional practice, a professional accountancy practice, a chartered accountancy practice. Its credibility is already there. It's been there for 20 years. We've got lots of clients that can refer us and send work our way. our clients and the people who are coming towards us understand who we are and what we do and the type of people that we work with. We knew exactly what we were doing because we've been doing it for more than 30 years. We understand the tasks, the roles, the processes, the legislation and everything involved in that. And I've stepped out into that and I am starting to create something absolutely from scratch. There's
Okay.
not a template that I can copy. There's not a book that I can go and read. There's not a set of instructions that I can follow. I don't know if this is going to work or not. I just believe it is. And I believe it's going to work because I believe in myself. And I think that's the fundamental thing here. What I'm selling to the world isn't Gilchrist and Co consultancy. It's not the networking dot app, which is going to be the new app to facilitate networking. It's me.
Yeah.
Do you believe that Martin Gilchrist, who is still in the process of trying to work out the story of what it is that this is all about, is the man that can make this happen?
That's
And
what they say. There's no perfect way to do it. You just, if you can't sell yourself first, you can't
mhm,
sell anything. And obviously, I spoke to another founder on the last podcast, and he mentioned something about domain expertise
mhm,
because he's building an app for an ad campaigns where the business can get better ROI from the ads they run on social media.
mhm,
But he comes from a digital marketing background, but still he found it difficult in the start because, as you mentioned, there you're building a startup, something new,
mhm,
and there is no set rule. You just obviously you get people saying you have to do this first, you have to do that after,
mhm.
but again, you just find your way through it.
Yep.
So how far you been through? Is it like months? Because I still remember when we were speaking the very first time, you were still on the accounting
Yep.
side of the business.
Literally 5 weeks.
5 weeks.
We're in the 5th week of this.
I know
And
you're doing a podcast
yeah,
on talking about your app.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
a huge
yeah.
jump.
It's been an unbelievable journey. In those 5 weeks or so, well, it might be more than 5 weeks, but it's certainly not much longer than that. Um, we've we've won ourselves a place in the Ulster Bank Accelerator, so we're now working out of the accelerator. And people might go, "Why are you doing that? Why are you traveling all the way into Belfast for somewhere to work?"
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I have to separate. I have to make a clean cut from Gilchrist and Co. I can't. I know there are people who can run 2 or 3 different businesses at the same time. I can't. I just don't have the strength or the energy to do that by myself.
Yeah.
So I have to let the world know that I'm no longer the practice manager in Gilchrist and Co Chartered Accountants. So I am distinct and separate now from that business. Also, in the Ulster Bank Accelerator environment, there are loads of great people. There are loads of other people on not the same journey, but a similar journey, either a little bit before. There's very few people behind me. I'm one of the newest people in there, but they are building businesses from scratch. They're coming up with ideas in their head and turning them into reality. And not only that, and this is one of the most important things in no matter what business you're going into, you can't do it by yourself. No
No.
business exists in isolation. At the very least, you need to have suppliers or customers, at the very least.
Yeah.
So that means you have to bring people on a journey with you. But this isn't a journey like a football team or a coffee club. Because this is a journey where people have to ultimately pay you money. Strangers.
Yeah.
Strangers have to take their money, hard-earned money, out of their pockets and pay it over to you. So you have to bring them on a journey where they believe that you're going to create the value that they require in exchange their money. That is not an easy journey for anybody to go on, particularly when you don't have the roadmap ahead of you.
Yeah.
So just to give you a sense of what I'm doing now, and I knew that this would be the case, and it's part of my plan and strategy. I have an idea. It's not a fully formed idea of what this business is yet, but I have a fairly good idea of what the business is. But before I crystallize it into a hard copy inked business plan that I take to Invest NI or to an angel investor or to a VC fund, I am going to test it with as many people in my community as possible. So I'm going to talk to you about it. I'm going to talk to people down in the accelerator about it. I'm going to talk to accountants, as many accountants in Northern Ireland list me, because that's going to be my initial marketplace accountants,
Yeah.
initially in Belfast, then in Northern Ireland, then the whole of Ireland, then the UK. And if I can't win accountants over and my friends over, I'm going to have to look at this tapestry that I'm stitching together again and see where to start. But that's what I'm doing now.
You got a point there because that's what they say. Most of founders don't share the idea.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even, if you ask them, what are you building? Oh, no, I'm not telling you that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the right way. What are you doing right now? Tell people what you're building.
Mm-hmm.
Then you learn from their responses, their emotions. Then then is that something worth building?
Yeah.
I think that's where, keep talking to your end users and getting those feedback before actually building the product. But what happened most of the time, people just build a product
Mm-hmm.
which nobody want to use.
That
So
happens. Yeah.
yeah, so it does happen a lot of time. Like
Mm-hmm.
engineering teams, they just build something and then go to the market and realize this is not what's.
We spent 6 months of our life. We like it.
Well, to be fair, my initial months on startup, I was on my laptop building products.
Mm-hmm.
Then went to the market and realized no, I was doing the wrong thing. Then we done everything again,
Mm-hmm.
refined the idea, spoke to users, identify, okay, this is what we need. Then identify how the problem is. Then you think about, what's the solution, how it looked like. We didn't even start building it. We're
Yeah.
still talking to people, getting an idea,
Yeah.
and get a stage, then slowly building it. Talking about that, as you mentioned, this gonna solve a lot of people's problem regarding networking.
Mm-hmm.
So what's that point you identified, okay, this is a problem and I'm the best person to solve it?
Okay. So when I think about networking, strip back all the waffle and all the nonsense and all the corniness and business cards and, stale sandwiches and all that type of stuff. What is networking? It's you and me, real people, connecting, having a conversation, working out something that we can do together of mutual benefit. Maybe it's buying or selling stuff, but it doesn't have to be just about buying and selling. It might be about creating stuff. It might be bringing other people together. And you've seen a couple of the networking activities. So you've been to my open coffees and the events that have helped. Netwalk. And, already in the short time you've known each other, you've seen a lot of the stuff that we do. There's a lot more to networking than just buying and selling. Sorry, ask the question again. I've lost myself there.
That's the point you thought this is the right time to solve this problem.
Mm-hmm.
And Martin is the best person to solve this.
Yeah. So I've been doing this for many, many years, this networking thing. I'm well known for it, and people seem to think I'm good at it. I've held lots of events, and they're always successful. And there's a certain type of energy that happens at my events that's unique to what I'm able to do. Now, during that process of holding events and stuff, I've come to realize that what people forget is that a good network doesn't just pop up out of the ground. It's like a good relationship, any friendship relationship, you have to work on it. You have to stay in touch. You have to engage. You have to make an effort. And people lose track of who it is in their network that is actually most active. So if I was to say to you, who are the 5 most active people in your business network? And I mean those people that are engaging with you the most, that are supporting you the most, that are referring you the most, that are talking to you the most, that are asking you the most things. Would you be able to identify them? Possibly you would.
Yeah.
Possibly you wouldn't. But what if I say, what about the top 15? Then it starts getting a wee bit wobbly then, because you could go, well, I could use a CRM, but CRMs are too heavy. Basically what we're trying to do with the networking app is create a tool where you can dynamically keep track of who are the people that are most involved in your business network right now, so that you can make a good judgment about where you need to apply the resources, your networking resources to. Because you can waste a lot of time networking if you're not strategic. You can go out and have a lot of nice coffees and great chats and lots of laughs and stuff. But if you're not being strategic, if you're not taking advantage of the opportunities that are coming out of that networking, you're wasting an awful lot of time. And when you're starting a business or growing a business, one of the most limited resources, one of the most precious resources you have as an individual is your own time.
Yeah.
You do need to network, but you need to be careful. And that's what the networking.app does. It's a resource, it's a tool that helps you dynamically understand who your top 5 connections are, because they're the people you should be contacting once every 7 days. Who your top 15 resources are, they're the people you should be contacting at least once a month. And who your top 150 are, they're people that, once every 6 months probably enough, but they're going to be people that you want to maintain connection with, even in a light touch sort of way. And we help facilitate those connections, and we help you pass on referrals. So if you've got a really good connection, so if I needed to refer someone in relation to the finance sector and people saving their money, guess who I know in that area?
Yeah.
But what I share, how do I share it, what's appropriate, what do you want me to share, what do you not want me to share, is it ready to go yet? The networking app helps you stay on top of all that information.
That's all high level information, to be fair. And of course, follow up as well. There's no point you going networking, meeting all the people.
Yep.
But after that, how are you going to find them? Obviously, I use LinkedIn a lot. Whenever I go for the event, then another app, where they scan my app, then they get all my details. But I think an app like this maybe make it more smoother. Maybe a CRM for networking.
Yeah. So it's
we
not.
can call that.
Yeah, and you make a very good point there with LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn as well, but this isn't LinkedIn. So this isn't social media. It's not just about broadcast. I have 13,000 followers on my LinkedIn, which is great.
Yeah.
And I have LinkedIn Messenger, which I use, and I have set up LinkedIn Messenger groups within LinkedIn. But that doesn't help me keep track of who my top 10 connections are. It doesn't remind me once a week, have you been in contact with John, Sally, Paul, or Mark? It doesn't help me do the work that I must do to maintain that personal network. It's not a personal tool. It's a social media thing.
Just another social media, just like Facebook or Instagram, but for a different reason.
Yeah. So that's what the networking.app is. It's more a tool. It's not social media. And it's specifically for an individual. It's about you and your network. It's not about what everybody else in the world is doing.
Yes. But again, LinkedIn also works better at some point because I'm only using LinkedIn for the past 6 months. Then obviously you got like 15,000 followers. Then for founders who are starting now, what do you think the best way to use LinkedIn as someone who have 15,000 followers?
Well, I can tell you how. I'm not a LinkedIn expert, so I can tell you what I do. From your own
experience,
from what I do. I don't use LinkedIn to sell anything, so we don't really use it to sell services and stuff. What I do use it to do is to maintain a network of people that are interested in connecting with each other. So as you know, we hold events, maybe 2 or 3 a month. Some of them will be smaller roundtable events, such as 5 Chairs, which is a structured conversation. Some of them will be larger events, such as open coffees, where you might get up to 25 people coming down to the likes of the Titanic Hotel. Some of them will be a launch event like we've had for Gilchrist and Co Consulting, where you have 60 or 70 people come down to a room. But in each of those events, the event itself is very useful. The day where people turn up and in a room and they're shaking hands and eating sandwiches and all is fantastic. But if you want to get real value out of that, you want to tell a story before. So you're building a story of what's happening, who's going to be there, what the venue is, why you're using that venue. You're profiling people who are coming along. You're profiling the speakers. You're profiling the compere. You're explaining what the event is about. Then you have the event itself, and you're getting pictures and videos and commentary and feedback and those little vox pops and all that type of stuff, the event itself. And then afterwards, you share the story. Now, after the launch event, the last event I think I had was, I think it probably was the launch event, which was last week. We had something like 130 likes on the initial release of photos. 130. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but that means for every like you get, you've at least 10 views. So you're talking 1,300 people that have viewed those pictures at least. And that was just our share of that. Other people then took those pictures and shared them across the internet. So when I look at that event and I look at the amount of engagement there's been, probably about 7,000 or 8,000 people have seen the fact that Gilchrist.
Many people shared about the event. I was saying, okay, this event.
And it was incredibly positive stories as well. They talked about what a great time they have and about the energy and about the lovely people they met there. You couldn't buy that.
And Jeff took some very
it was incredible.
Yeah.
And he's taken videos as well, which is going to be released this week, which I can't wait that people see that. I was actually, when he showed it to me, I actually got a little bit emotional because it caught the emotion and the energy and the joy of the day.
Yeah.
So that's what LinkedIn's for me. Now, on top of that, you can form you can have
groups.
So you
that's why we are on the group there.
Yeah. So we have the orcs or the occasional random catch-ups. And you can be daft like that as well. You don't have to be serious all the time. Yeah. And through that, you can. One of my very good friends, Stuart Lunn, organizes networking with Pulse.
I seen the post the other day, and he mentioned about that on the network by Dr. Johnny.
Yeah.
Not this one, the last one.
So that's networking in a pool hall, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
It's absolutely. I can remember I was going down to it, and I thought I haven't played pool.
Did you go?
It was brilliant. Yeah, absolutely.
The time didn't match for me. That's why I couldn't go. But definitely we'll try for the next one.
I think it's the 16th of April. If you're anybody's watching it. But it's absolutely brilliant. Nobody else could play pool either. I was going down thinking I'd look daft because I don't know how to play pool.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
neither.
I once I was
But I may just go for the crack.
yeah,
Maybe.
and just enjoy it. You
Yeah.
know, you don't have to take it too seriously. And it was great crack. And what you're doing is you're meeting people and you're having conversations. But all those people are in business.
Yeah.
You know, the reason for this networking event was that they are all business people.
Yeah.
Stuart's actually written a book on business, a very good bit in business. And not only that, he's also built a business AI tool.
Oh,
Like
okay.
this guy, Stuart's got his head screwed on. So if for no other reason, go down and see Stuart and talk to him about business and about his AI and about all the great his book and all the great stuff he's doing. It's definitely well worth it.
That's also interesting about NetWalk. You know, you're actually going for a walk, but speaking to the other founders, people in the space. So, how are you finding the energy, and what do you think about Northern Ireland as a place to build a startup? Obviously, you're only on the startup for the 5 weeks, you said,
Yep, yep.
but you being in the network for a while,
Yep.
you've seen people who are doing this. And what do you think about the ecosystem here for now?
I think it's a fantastic place to start a business. I honestly do, just for the energy of the founders, if nothing else. I'm 51 now, so I am older than the average founder in Northern Ireland by quite a way. You normally, if you look even around the accelerator here down at the Ormo Baths Gallery, entrepreneurial. What's the full title of it? Do you remember? It's entrepreneurial campus and something. Anyway. It's a fantastic space. I can remember coming in here when it first opened, like
Did you?
7 or 8 years ago. Yeah, so we had an event in here. So as a matter of fact, it must be more than 7 or 8 years ago because I think it was Gilchrist and Co.'s 10th anniversary. We had in the event space upstairs.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
So you've been here, way longer than.
yeah. I know.
I'm only here for a couple of months now.
Yeah.
But
So this place has been here a while. But even before that, there have been spaces, and so Farset Labs would be another space. There was a place called Core that was set up by a guy called Danny McMillan, who went on to be very successful, and now is over in the US running conferences with more than 15,000 people in attendance every year. So, yeah, I've been around the block a wee bit, and I suppose this is my second bite at the cherry as far as starting up properly is concerned, and some things have changed, and some things are very much the same.
okay, and we've been to Catalyst as well
Yeah.
for that event,
Yep.
Pitch and Pine.
Yes, that
You
was.
walked in with the rock music on.
Yeah, I do tend to do things a little bit differently.
Yeah, like people remember you, like, you know, obviously after that everyone was talking about that entry and
Yeah, whether it was
know.
appropriate or not.
like it was Pitch and Pine. It was
Yeah, it was supposed to be
meant
fun.
to be funny when you just made more enjoyable.
Yeah, I suppose also the attitude I want to take here as well is I'm in the luxurious position. I'm a little bit hesitant about saying this because I don't want to take away the seriousness of what I'm doing. I'm serious about what I do, but I don't take myself too seriously. And what I mean by that is I am absolutely serious about making Gilchrist & Co. Consulting a success for my clients and for the people that are going to work with me in this project and the networking app. I'm going to put my blood and soul into this, and I'm going to give it my very best effort for the next few years to make this work, because that's what it takes.
Yeah.
You can't go into these half-hearted. You have to mean what you say. But at the same time, I'm not going to take myself too seriously. I'm going to enjoy this journey.
Yeah, we had a conversation about this the other day. You know, life is tough.
Yeah.
Why you making more tougher?
Yeah. And it's not about just making my life easier for myself. And funny, I was having a conversation about someone who's joining me in the journey just before this one. I was over in the Mac. I was talking to a wonderful lady called Joanne. And she asked me, or it came up in conversation, what's the ethos of this? What's important to you now, Martin? And this sounds corny even to me, but I genuinely mean this. Kindness. I think kindness is a very kind word, very, very important word. And that sense of treating other people kindly. And sometimes people think that business is cut and thrust and you have to trample people on the way up and all this type of stuff. You know, it's them against us. My experience, and we have a successful business, is that we didn't have to do that. We were able to be very successful while at the same time treating people with respect, dignity, and trust, and kindness. So that sense of being kind to others is going to be at the core of what I do. And if that means every time I have a conversation, there's a laugh and a joke in that, happy days. That's important to me. If that means when I'm meeting people, I get to enjoy their company and do something good for them, not just profit from them or them profit from me, happy days. If that means what we're doing with the networking app and the Gilchrist Consulting is being able to make people feel better about their work and what they're doing and how they're changing the world, if that's kindness, that's what we want to do. So kindness is a big part of what we're trying to achieve.
That's a very different perspective, I would say, which isn't much, spoken about in the startup space. Obviously, we all talk about, creating value, obviously helping people, but that kindness aspect is something new to hear. But that's a good initiative as well, I would say, being different in a sense, putting that in place. But that also becomes part of the vision as well?
Yeah, it's very much part of the ethos of what we're trying to do. Now, again, this is just stuff that I'm working out as I go along. I haven't got a book where I've written all this down. Oh, we're going to talk about kindness in week 6, and we're going to develop. But it's something that these things are starting to bubble up. And where the kindness thing is bubbling up from is that I've sort of given myself a rule that what's going to be important to me is being me on this journey. I'm not going to try and pretend to be some big hot shot or some VC specialist person or I just have to be me. And if an element of me is, I like people being kind to me. I like people looking out for me and, treating me nicely and all that type of stuff. If I want that from other people, that's what I have to put out into the world. You get back what you put out.
Yeah, of course.
And so, yes, that sense of trying to be responsible, decent, friendly, kind, trying to enjoy the journey, that will be a big part of what we're trying to do as we go through it.
And people who will be listening to the podcast, they'll be like a wide variety. They'll be like professionals, they'll be like students, they'll be like startup founders, operators in the network. So what message you have to put out to them if they are in a profession or trying to build a startup? Obviously, you had like a successful professional journey. Now you building a startup. If you can give something which actually work for you, what it would be, you can share with them.
Okay. Don't get distracted by funding and grants and what Invest NI or the Go Succeed program or Catalyst or TechStart or all those list of people that have got money that you could potentially get. Don't get distracted by them. It's not that there's anything wrong with them and you can get that money. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
The most important thing, and this is vital, you have to believe in your idea enough that you will put your own money in first. Would you invest your own money in your own idea? Would you, and I'm not suggesting that you go and borrow money to do this, but if there were none of those other grants or funds available, do you believe that your idea is so viable that you would borrow the money if you could borrow the money to make it happen? Because if you don't believe that strongly in your idea, why not? What's wrong with it that you don't believe in it strongly enough to borrow the money?
If you don't believe on your idea, who else is going to believe it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So fundamentally, you absolutely have to believe in your idea. And if you have any doubts, there's nothing wrong with having doubts or hesitations, but you have to answer those questions to yourself before you go and present it to the world, because the world's going to be a lot harsher on your idea than you are. So if you don't believe, why should you expect anybody else to take their money and put it into your idea?
That's where I had to add in, because as things being changed in the last 2 years, because see, before that you have to raise a lot of money to build an app or a software. But now, as you mentioned, they don't even have to put that much money on to build something. A subscription for Lovable, Cloud, or Replit, you name it, and you use Base 44.
That's right.
So you can use these tools and you can actually see how your idea looks like.
Yep.
Then you can make a prototype, a working prototype, and take to the investors. And you can speak to customers. You can tell your customers, this is what we are building. So you can do all this now with the advancement in AI. It make it easier for founders like us. If you're not even doing that.
Yeah. And here's the thing about that. You can, like, I was able to go and build an app, and I know nothing about app building whatsoever. So I went on, and in the course of less than an hour, I was able to find, from no knowledge whatsoever, identify Base 44 would be an app that would an AI that would help me build an app. I was able to build an app that represented the idea I had. It may not be exactly the idea I had, but it represented the idea that I had, and it worked. So there was buttons that did stuff, and you could update information into it, and you could move dynamically information between different fields and stuff. There was an explanation page. It was a full-blown app with a back end and all that type of stuff. But you know what's really interesting about that? And what comes as a little bit of a shock to the system? Once you've got that app, you can go and show it to other people.
Yeah.
Right? Do you think other people are interested? No, they're not interested. And you're going to get, that's the thing that sometimes I think will really disappoint founders, particularly in the app. But there are so many apps and CRMs and tools and resources and clever stuff that people have invested millions in. And you think you're going to create an app and they're going to show it to people and they're going to go, wow, look at your app. That's going to No, they're not going to care. So not only do you have to build an app, but you have to build a story that goes with the app to explain why this is what they need. So I was able to build an app. I was able to make it do what I pretty much wanted it to do. And I showed it to people and they didn't care. Well, it's not that they didn't care. It's that they were busy thinking about other stuff.
Yeah.
So how do you convince a stranger that you've created something that's going to make their life better? Now, I know that this app is going to make people's lives better. The other thing is, somebody said to me, would you eat your own dog food? And essentially that means you've created something here. Would you even use it yourself? So if you've got an app or a tool or a resource, do you find that it's the most useful tool for you to do the job that it's supposed to do? Do you turn it on every day and use it? And if not, why not? What notify? If you're not using it, why would you expect somebody else to use it? So I'm making sure that I use my app, and it is very, very useful for what I do.
Obviously, again, there's a need as well. If that's where you think about your end users. Who gonna be your end users? If you're speaking to end users, if that actually works for them, and again, obviously, people who look into network will be the kind of users as well. Then, as I mentioned earlier, there's a variety of audience will be watching this podcast. And as we talk about networking, if you go to networking events, you're speaking to people, if you're not putting the ask out to the room, you're not getting anything back. The same again, if someone watching this podcast who need to speak to you, so what's your ask to the audience?
My ask is very simple at the moment. So we're in the ideation phase of this at the moment. Yes, I have an idea. Yes, there's an app. Yes, there's a business idea, but it's not fully developed yet. And I want to test the ideas that I have in my head before going to the formal business planning, writing it down, then, going to get funding, all that type of stuff. So the people I want to talk to are people that want to connect with others. So if you're sitting in the world and you're thinking, I need to connect with I'm going to use silly examples, but say, for example, you need a plumber or an electrician or a musician to come to play at your party, or a software developer to write an initial field, a landing page, or whatever that connection is, come and speak to me and I will see if I can use my network to help you connect. And that's not charging you for it. This is a free. Like those 13,000 real people based in Northern Ireland doing real jobs, come and speak to me and see if I can help you. And through the process of trying to help you, I am going to fine tune what it is that we're doing with Gilchrist & Co Consulting and with the app. The flip side of that is, say you're looking for clients. So say, for example, you're an accountant or an engineer or a software developer, or you've got a finance tool that helps people save money or whatever that is. And you need to either get in front of a group of people or get in front of individuals in order to sell that service or to get funding with it, basically, come and speak to me. Let's find out if we can get either Gilchrist & Co Consulting or the networking.app to help you in a way that's more effective than you trying to do all that work by yourself. Because we're networking day in, day out. I'm basically at networking events, if not every day, every other day. And I'm building that network for your resource. So that you don't have to. I'm doing the work so that you can benefit from it, but I need to make sure that it's being done in a way that benefits people rather than the way that I think benefits people, because what the real world is compared to what people think it is, it's normally two different things. And the only way you do that is by testing the model.
No worries. Again, so that make it, it's a simple ask, now they know who need to come and speak to you.
Yep.
Then this is something I brought up on our first call ever on the phone, because when you look at the SMEs, so they don't realize how much money they're spending every year in terms of staff retention or staff turnover.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because so that's where we come in and trying to help the SMEs. We work with companies anything more than 10 employees to create a financial well-being tool for their employees.
Okay.
But still, we find that barrier of businesses identifying that value for that. So what do you think, as someone who worked for business for a while and different range of businesses, what do you think that barrier, why the business don't realize they're already spending money on staff retention, staff turnover? What's stopping them to get some investment on their staff well-being or employee financial well-being?
First, maybe the tools just aren't there for them to do it, or if they are there, they're not aware of them, or if they are there and they're aware of them, they don't understand the value. So if you think about business owners, particularly small to mid-sized business owners in particular, they don't have any spare capacity or time. They have more to do every day than they have time to do, and everything they're looking at on their plate is urgent. Yeah. There's probably urgent stuff that's not getting done. So anything novel, anything unexpected, anything completely new, they're just blocking out. They're just going, like, those telephone calls coming in saying, like, here's a new insurance policy, or here's a way of saving money on your electricity or whatever. They're just blocking it out because they don't have time. So you have to, if I was working on that product, you have to, how do you get in onto the parapet and get to the person at a moment when they have time to consider it? Or how do you get them to stop worrying about all the other stuff they're worrying about and worry about this? Because as you say, and it's a cliche almost, you could have the best product in the world. You could be the best person at doing what you want and what you do. So Gilchrist & Co. could well be the best chartered accountants in the world for VAT, payroll, self-assessment, and corporation tax returns. But if people don't know about it, you can't help them. Yeah, you can't provide that service because if they don't know, they don't know. Yeah, you don't even exist. And I think that's a very hard thing, getting through all the noise and all the other offers and, things that small business owners could be doing to retain their staff, to show them that yours is actually the best, or the one that they should be thinking on. So it's a tough job, but I think that's something that you just have to keep banging the drum on. Putting that message out there, making them understand this is how it makes different from all the generic tools, obviously. And we touched this throughout the conversation about you being an accountant and now being a consultant. You never been an engineer, but you still managed to make a version of your product. So that's the phase we are going through. So what I think, if someone who have a big idea and they never tried any of these vibe coding tools, I think they have to try this, isn't it? And for you, was it straightforward? Was it easy enough? Well, with no experience and no knowledge whatsoever, in the course of about 2 hours, I had an app that sort of looked like what I wanted it to look like and sort of did what I wanted to do. Obviously, it's not perfect. I'll just, between you and me, don't tell anybody else. I'm calling it my crap app. I know it's not a great app. Well, that's what I was like. That's your first version, but but it shows me. And the other thing it does for me is, by trying to build this, it gives me a sense of what it is that the actual developers are having to think about. Because once you start down the road, there's an awful lot more questions than there are answers on every single aspect. From where you place the button, what the button looks like, what color it is, what the button actually does. What happens if you've got a referral tool on that? So what does a referral tool do? So you hit do you hit the referral on the person's name, or do you have that on a set? Yeah, and it just goes on and on and on, and before you know it becomes endless. And what I started off with my app was I wanted this to be the simplest possible app for maintaining a network, for growing and maintaining a network that you could have, and. What I've realized is keeping stuff simple is very difficult. Yeah, and you only learn that by actually doing. So, what the vibe coding apps do is they start you doing something, and momentum is so important. You need to be moving. If the wheels start to come off, you start to slow down, you start to lose energy, you start to lose pace. All of a sudden, you start getting a wee bit wobbly. You need to keep your idea moving, and vibe coding in the app is a way of keeping it moving when you don't have any money. Yes. It also makes the communication easier as well. If you're bringing a tech team,
You don't have to explain everything. You can just tell
Show
them,
them.
this is what I want. Then that's what I use sometimes when I speak to my tech team. There's a couple of people I work with.
Mm-hmm.
So a feature, if I want, I just put on the lovable and make a prototype and tell them,
Yeah.
can we try this one?
A
So that's easier to tell them.
Yeah, a picture says 1,000 words, doesn't it? You know, you're actually able to show them.
I remember Jeff comment on your post.
Right?
Yeah, he said that.
Very good. There you
One
go.
picture, yeah, is equal to 1,000 words.
Uh-huh.
Well, I would love to have this conversation the whole day.
Yeah,
because, you know,
so would I. My goodness. Look at the time already. Oh, my goodness.
that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, because you're incredible. You know, we can have the
Thank you.
conversation, you know, whole day. I don't mind, but again,
Yeah, you'll have to be realistic. Nobody's listening. Because the point.
well, a big thank you for coming down, having very casual and open conversation. We talked about many things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it wasn't just your professional journey. It wasn't just about startup. It wasn't just about, you know, how to get better every day.
Mm-hmm.
We even talked about vibe coding.
Yep.
You know, we both are like non-technical founders.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a very good conversation, and thank you so much.
No, thank you. I think one of the things I've really enjoyed about this one, it evidences something that's very important about business, small business, startups, the startup world here in Northern Ireland generally. You and I come from completely different backgrounds.
Yep.
6 weeks ago, we didn't even know each other. And now we're able to sit here as friends and have a conversation about business where we're sharing ideas, where we're telling each other stories, and we're actually sharing it with others through a podcast. How brilliant is that?
It is brilliant. I like it.
Yeah, so do I. Beats
You know,
working.
Yeah, because that's what I love about the journey. Again, things can go both ways. You know, you may become a highly successful startup in the next couple of years, or you know,
Or
maybe,
not.
maybe this doesn't work. Then we have to start again. But the journey is incredible.
Yeah.
As you mentioned there, you come across a lot of very nice people. You learn a lot of stuff
Mm-hmm.
which you wouldn't otherwise.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And look at this. This is also at work.
Yeah.
You know, you can beat this for a day job. You know? So anyway, thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity.
No worries. Yeah. So best of luck with everything.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hopefully I can use that app soon. Cheers.